the microphone do anything. So let me. Webcam microphone. Let's try that. Okay, now they're hearing us off the webcam microphone. I'll keep playing with it. So, but at least I can hear you, Tom. So I was asking, what is orientation? Let's try that. Yep. Okay, now they're hearing us off the. So we'll work on it. What is orientation like?
Well, orientation is torture. We just bring them in, torture them a little bit, and send them home. No. What we're going to do in orientation is get people on the same sheet of music, go over policies, procedures, show them how to use the website, and get them their first assignments, get them ready, introduce instructors to them, show them around the facility, so that whenever they come to their first lab, they're just not totally stressed out, and get to know them a little bit. So not too bad.
How important is it for the students to be there? Now, I noticed that the time frame is, what, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m.? Like the class, right? Does it really go 4 hours?
No. Sometimes we might be here, but a lot of times we get done, around 8-ish. But then we have people that hang around, want to talk and stuff like that. So, we're here to answer their questions and help them get off on a good note, good start. So
it's really just an example of how the building works, how the school's going to play out. Do you try to get all the instructors in, or how do you, on the instructor side, what do you require? What do you ask for?
Usually the lead instructor, at least, to be here. Usually clinical coordinator or somebody who can talk about clinicals will be here.
Required. What do you ask for? Okay.
And that's it. Usually the lead instructor, at least.
For whatever reason, our Yeti has died. But we'll keep you. We're doing fine with the other microphone.
Whatever reason, there we go. We're just having technical issues today, but I think I got it fixed. My side fixed now. So, but it's kind of boring actually. The first night, we're going over the syllabus, going over the contract, going over just paperwork that has people set up in class.
Oops, sorry, knocked your phone over.
And to get people ready so that they can be very successful in the course. That's the whole point of orientation.
Now, are you not the lead instructor?
No.
Who is?
No, the lead instructor for this class starting is James Cox. Does
he goof off in class? Is he the James we know him of?
Nah, he's kind of, he's a captain now, so, he's kind of.
Is he all like brr, 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 brr?
No, he's more like a big teddy bear. He's, so, or Sasquatch, or something like that.
Who else do you have teaching classes right now?
I got Andrew Dykes, who teaches online. We have Vandora Steiner. She's from Grady. They're from actually out of state, and they moved here. She's a good instructor. Got Graham Westerman. He retired from Grady. Got Stacy Elmore. She's emergency management manager and paramedic down in Butts County. We've got, I'm afraid I'm going to miss somebody, Stephen Norton. He's an advanced EMT instructor, works at DeKalb Fire. Steve Jones, he's a battalion chief from the city of Covington. He's also acts as a clinical coordinator as well there. We've got, Vanessa Hale. She's a paramedic, used to be a captain at Newton. She's one of our instructors. Jason Hale, her husband, he's a paramedic, nurse, critical care nurse, and flight paramedic. He helps us a lot. Brandy Van Zant, she's one of our EMT students. She helps us out a lot as well. Abby Bruno and Matt Bruno, husband and wife. Abby is a nurse practitioner student, and Matt, he works at Covington Fire with Jeremy Mathis. He works at Covington Fire as well. Occasionally Dawn Bartow comes in and helps.
Yeah, Dawn.
So she used to help a lot, but she's been real busy with things. And if I've forgotten anybody, I'm sorry.
Now, when it comes to lead instructors, James Cox is doing the AEMT or the EMT?
AEMT.
So who's the lead for EMT?
I think Steve is going to be the lead for the next
Steve
EMT.
Norton?
No, Steve Jones.
Steve Jones.
Yeah.
Okay. Steve's such a generic name.
Yeah.
You know, let's call him Bobby because that's not.
They
generic
all
at
kind of just rotate around who does it.
Okay.
But we all do. You know, they're the main person responsible for the class, but we all rotate. We all have certain responsibilities for a class to get things done. So,
trying to get off the main screen of my. There we go. 'Cause I want to share this on my page if it'll let me. And it does not look like it. The tablet doesn't want to cooperate, but that's okay.
for some reason, we've just got some funky mojo with the electronics today.
But we're doing what we're not supposed to be doing. You know, we're bending the laws of internet physics and putting 2 webcams in and this and that and the other. It's cool. And you got my pretty face and you got your smart brains and it works. You know.
I got you fooled.
So the other change has been after the show last week, Tom and I talked, and it looks like I'll be going back through paramedic research.
Yoo-hoo.
What does it look like? I'm definitely going to go back through paramedic research to then follow up with a paramedic instructor.
Yep.
And will that put me at the top of the food chain here?
Yeah, one of them. You'll be up there with us. A bunch of T-Rexes, you know, just snatching people as they walk by.
Now, the question I have is, walk me through the process. 'Cause we definitely went through it last week, but I think it's interesting for people who are interested to forward their career, change their career. For me, you know, let me give a little story. I got out of EMS 10 years ago, roughly. I never lost my numbers. I let my numbers lapse, which is a different terminology. But my daughter was being born. I was frustrated with the lack of future on the ambulance and the lack of pay. Although I'm looking at the bulletin board you have in the hallway with the job postings, all EMTs starting at $15 an hour. I didn't make anywhere near that as a paramedic captain when I did it. That was, I kind of shook my fist at the wall. It was national EMS too, offering $15 an hour for EMTs. I'm like, wow. Congratulations, EMTs, you're getting paid. And National's a good company to do that with, or at least they used to be. I'm assuming they still kept their standards. I ran into David Briscoe the other day, actually, at Publix, yeah. Told him about the show, told him that I'm working down here with you, and we're doing the EMS thing, or the EMS Underground. Anyway, I let my numbers lapse because there was no way I could feed my family and move forward in what I wanted to do in the field at the time. It was the right path for me to take. And I always, and Thomas corrected this on previous shows, I always assumed that I had to be on the truck to keep the numbers up. And that's not the case anymore for recertification. And if I remember correctly, recertification back then was a lot of money, and now it's $20 or something like that to keep your numbers up. And so, I mean, it seems to be easier. See, which is a smart thing for me. The state, you know, before I go back to my path, let's talk about this for a minute, Tom. Didn't it feel like the state made it difficult, or the process, not necessarily the state, whoever the state followed, whatever procedures they put in place? Didn't it seem like the process was set up to lose paramedics and to lose instructors, or it was very difficult to keep and costly to keep the process up?
Yes. It was very difficult.
You're going to need, her shirt says Search and Rescue, and I think she wants to shake your hand and get an autograph.
Yeah. All right. I shall return.
I'll finish. I'll carry on with my story because I definitely want to talk about the process and how it was built. But I remember clearly sitting at my kitchen table to do recertification. The last time I actually recertified, it was all out of my pocket. So it was $150 for ACLS, and I did it online. Yeah, I know you don't have to whisper. It's okay, Tom. Yeah, he said he'll be back. But it's $150 for ACLS certification, which I had to have for paramedic. It was the ongoing. I paid for an online service. I can't remember. It was some Georgia paramedic continuing education place here, and I paid for the online access to get my recertification hours. Right. I did arrange with a service to ride with them, third ride or whatever. Although apparently I don't know if I'd do that or not. But it was the service, $75 for the recertification, I think, or maybe 150 for the hours. I know it was 150 for the ACLS class, and it was $75 to the state to recertify. And I dropped my national registry instantly when I got it because I hated it. I hated what they stood for at the time. I hated how they felt like a block to my education because that test was at least super tough, very expensive to take. So I dropped it. I dropped my registry because Georgia State at the time did not require you to keep national registry to be a paramedic. You just had to get registry to get paramedic, and then you just did the recertification hours every 2 years, I want to say. Now, CPR was never an issue. Being in the field, you always know a CPR instructor somewhere, and if you know them well enough, you can get into the class for free, or they make it easy for you. So, the last time I recertified, and you're talking about somebody who's not on the ambulance. I'm not working for any ambulance service. I'm working for a company that only wants my cardiac skills, and they actually paid for me to get cardiac technician, certified cardiac technician, which are the people who can help with stress tests in the doctor's office, those kind of things. But I actually have that certification as well now, and the company helped me get that. So that's all they wanted. So now I'm putting forth $300 to $500 and time for something that honestly, emotionally, at the time was, I mean, all I can think about doing the recertification, all I can think about is the no pay that I had, the stress levels that I had working, the bad weather, just all this negative feelings towards it. So after that certification, I was like, no more. I'm not wasting my money. I'm not wasting my time. I will never get back on a truck. I would rather go work at Taco Bell or Publix, which I did. I worked in the deli at Publix. I didn't have my certification. I'd already let it lapse. But I went to work for a deli at Publix because that was, to me, a better emotional option than getting back on the truck. So yeah, I carry some baggage and those kind of things. It happens. It's the way that goes. So I'm just double checking my microphones here. Yep, everything's still good. So flash forward, from that path at the table where I was already becoming a successful podcaster. I was already becoming known in my circles as a good podcaster and a media creator, and I'm finding paths to make money that way, and it was such a positive, energetic thing. It was such a positive way for me to move forward. I'm doing that. So I follow that path and follow where it goes, and ultimately it led me here to Georgia Institute of EMS. And so Tom reaches out to me, and just through Facebook Messenger, Tom reaches out and says, hey, I've got this school, I want to talk to you about it. And that's all he really said. And I was like, I don't, what? What do you want? Because I was so far away from paramedic medicine at the time, it wasn't even funny. I was so far away from, I barely was even sharing those stories and what I was doing. And so, he came back with, I've seen what you do with the social media and everything and the shows and the podcasts, and I'd like to talk to you about helping me out. So we met at Starbucks, and very quickly it became he wanted to have me come in and do this, not just ask some questions, which I was prepared to answer, but actually have me work with him, and that's how I got media specialist here at Georgia Institute of EMS. And that was cool. And so I was like, yeah, awesome. I liked Tom. I liked how I worked with him. And I had personal issues going on at the time that I did work with him. I mean, I think we were gearing up. We had not filed, that's correct, we had not filed bankruptcy, but I was having financial struggles. I was feeling, I was very, and this is something that when time comes back and we can possibly talk about, very narrow minded and just this life tunnel vision of I can only see the stress that I'm going through. I can only see the lack of pay. I'm fighting with my wife. At the time that I left Newton, my wife was pregnant with our first child. So I have all these things going on. Ultimately, I ended up going to work for the county that I lived in because they put me at a station that was a mile from my house. It reduced my cost. Now, I still ended up filing bankruptcy. Filed bankruptcy because I mismanaged my money and I didn't know what kind of future I could have. So that's it. That's what happened there. But as far as coming back, so my memories with Tom were clouded by all of that going on in my life. I do remember, like as we've talked, sitting around the tables, having some fun, doing the wrestling matches, doing the education. There was definitely some good times there. I just had to, personally for my life, I had to move into a different area to be able to heal and to be able to deal with the stress levels and the different things I had built up. So when he brought me to Starbucks and we're sitting there drinking coffee and I'm trying to educate him, right? That's what I thought he wanted. Educate him on how to do what became this show. How to get on Facebook Live, how to do the YouTube stuff, how to do it. He said, well, how can I get you to come do it with me? Because he'd seen what I'd done. So I came, we did it. We've been doing it ever since. And it's been great. But very early on, Tom was saying, and I'll get to this, but Tom was saying, hey, you would love teaching. So I want to get back to a few things I covered while you were gone, Tom. First off, we started with, didn't it feel like at some point that the state made it, or the process made it difficult to be a paramedic, to keep paramedic? It was a lot of hassle, and there was a lot of expense.
I don't think so far. I think maybe you're confused with the state and national registry.
Maybe.
The state has always been kind of easy, just 40 hours of continuing education. They really, as long as it was an approved course through someone, they really didn't care.
Okay.
You just had to get it, and it was at first it was free. Remember, we used to not pay anything.
Now, I've always paid. I was an EMT since '96. I've always paid something to.
Yeah, I think EMTs it was free for a long time. Paramedics, I think it was like $20.
My first research came out when I was working with National EMS, and they handled my continuing education. That's part of the perks of working there was they handled everything. Yes.
The state was always really easy.
Okay.
Now the national registry gets complicated because you got to have so many hours in this, so many hours in that, so many hours over here, so many hours over there, but they're only $20 too. But by the time you add the expense of all the continuing education, along with your ACLS and your BLS, and you got to go find your medical director, get your medical director to sign off on you, and send it in, and then it got complicated. But the state has really always been kind of easy.
So I was just recounting the last process I went through before I let it lapse. Was I had to pay $150 for ACLS class online, which I was fortunate to find one online because I still had contacts with Rob Andrews and Amy Norton back then, and I was hitting them up. But of course, I didn't want to do it. I was doing it for my wife to give her a peace of mind, so I was pushing it off. So by the time I said, "Hey, can you help me out?" They're like, "We don't have any ACLS classes coming up." And then I'm having to figure it out. Yeah, $150 is a lot. For somebody who's not in the field, who is only keeping the numbers as a fallback option, whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, and the cost of some things have, gone up. We're doing ACLS and PALS and stuff here. We're starting that off, and we're charging about, I think, $160 to $180 for a 2-day class, and I think $100 for the 1-day class. But whenever you sit down and figure it out, and I have people talk about like, oh, that costs so much, but when you have to pay an instructor on average $25 an hour for a 16-hour class,
yeah, no, I get it. It adds up.
Unfortunately, at the end of the day, it's got to at least break even, if not make a little money. So that's not a bad not a bad price. I mean, and that's the going rate around
No,
Atlanta.
no, I get that. Well, mine was what I paid for was the ease of access because I did it, like I said, I
Yeah.
did it all online, and I paid for them setting all that up, right? Because that a business mind goes, as a student who just wants, I just need this now. You go, oh, it's a ripoff for the online being 150. Well, not really, because they set up the internet site, they set up all the tech behind it, they got all the
People
certifications
don't
that allow
understand how much
Georgia to
tech.
do it.
Yeah, people don't understand
Yeah.
how much tech costs behind the scenes. They think, oh, just throw a website. They go to like what GoDaddy, and you can get a
Mm-hmm.
website for a few bucks. Yeah, that's a very simple website to be top on your search engine optimization for the website to have enough RAM and process. Like if you've got a website and only like 5 people are looking at it in a day, or 100 people a day, but those 100 people aren't all on it at one time, that's not too bad. But if you have a website like our online website or
Yeah.
our Moodle site, our learning management system, sometimes we can have 100 plus people on that at one time.
That's a lot of bandwidth and processing power.
Yes. So, and that costs money.
Not to mention, you have to be able to store all the tech that goes into the interactive tests, the page turning that keeps it that you, Tom, are on this page and I'm on this page, or
Yep.
all
And
that
keep up
stuff.
with
These are called nodes or modules sometimes, and each one has to be put in. So when Tom becomes a student, or let's reverse it, when I become the student, I have to have all my own modules put in, which is basically my own little website that costs space, resources, time, money. So I totally get that. That even though it's the same price as a real life class, all the tech went into it, and I could do it sitting at midnight, messing around with a game on one screen, and because it was timed, the whole thing was like, yeah, I knew the answer, boom, but I had to wait a minute and a half to go by so I could flip to the next question. So I'm goofing off.
Yeah. But there's a lot that goes into it now. Now things are getting cheaper. Like we're starting to do ACLS, BLS, and PALS classes here for anybody who wants it. If you're an advanced EMT, paramedic, or whatever, give us a holler. We're doing those classes.
The research classes
We're doing the full classes too.
for the EMT. Have you started paramedic class?
No,
Okay.
just for ACLS.
We'll get into talking about that. Okay.
Yeah, just
So
for
full
PALS.
ACLS, brand new, or recert ACLS.
And same thing with CPR, BLS.
Okay.
Coming up, we've got refresher classes coming up, like what you're going to have to take so you can get your paramedic numbers back. So we got refreshers for EMT, advanced EMT, EMT intermediate, and paramedic. So, and it meets all the requirements for the state of Georgia, so you can get your license recertification, and you can use it for the National Registry as well. The other things that we have coming down the road is that we're going to start offering continuing education online. So our
Nice.
goal there is to says that we're interrupted.
It does that from time to time. We'll just keep rolling.
That we're going to offer some online continuing education. Possibly each class will be as little as $1. So you could get
Wow.
your 40 hours of continuing education in for $40 potentially
Wow.
here soon. So we're working on that. Now, as an instructor, you have to maintain a certain amount of continuing education. And we have to do 24 hours of instructor con ed to maintain your instructorship, and we're going to have that as well.
Okay.
And that's due in December. Not,
That means I am not worried about that right now.
No.
Now, if you get, here's the thing too. Now, this is how I can't remember if it's paramedic or EMT, but I got lucky. The way I fell when I got my numbers was at a recert year.
right.
And it's recert. The recertification was every 2 years, but it was solid. It wasn't 2 years from when you got it. It was literally every even year you recert it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in 2006 you recertified, and in 2008 you recertified, type of deal. And so I got my numbers in the beginning. Basically, I got 2.5 years essentially of time, because I think I got my numbers in like September of a recertification year. So the way, I don't remember, the way it fell was close enough that I got extra time before I had to recertify.
Yeah.
So we'll get to. Now, something I said while you were out of the room was I was recounting what I remembered about EMS and why I pushed it off, and it was this darkness to stress, the different things, and I know we have different levels of stress and different things that go on in our lives. But what do you think about the concept of after I left Newton, I went to that Med 1, which is right there, like 50 feet away from Newton EMS. I ended up leaving. No, I left you. Still worked for Newton, but I left you and went and worked in the ER in Newton for about a year. Then I went to Med 1. Then ultimately ended up in Jasper County. But what pushed me down that path, I mean, I recall it vividly, was it kept building stress, kept feeling the stress of having a bad call and not knowing how to deal with it. Because it wasn't a call, it was how I dealt with everything was I can rationalize it away. And when I couldn't, it threw me off my game as far as stress levels went. But I went to the ER, it was so easy because it was just medicine. I didn't have to make a decision on anything. If there was any decisions made, there's a doctor right there. And that helped, but then I went to Med 1. I still felt like I could never break that ceiling of money. I couldn't afford my bills. I lived on Jackson Lake in Turtle Cove, where you lived actually for a while, I believe. Actually, there's a lot of medics and firefighters and cops in that neighborhood.
Used to.
Well, did everybody move out? Yeah, everybody follows me. Yeah, I move out, the neighborhood's gone, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
But it was a good 30 to 45 minute ride to work, to any work. And that's gas, blah, blah, blah. But I got this, what I described was this live tunnel vision. I know we know about tunnel vision as paramedics, like, oh, there's a person's hurt, and you focus in. But this live tunnel vision of all I could start to see was this darkness closing in of I've got no future. I've got no way to move up. I'm very burned out. I can't make any money. How do you address something like that in somebody who works underneath you, a former student, a current student who's getting buried in class?
Well, those are some difficult situations for anybody. And we would really have to drill down into that individual. What is it that you really want in life? Is this the career you want? Was this a stepping stone for you and you just fell back in? Because so many people will get into this because they want to be a nurse, they want to be a PA, they want to be a physician or something, because you need this. This is one of the professions that they draw from, and you get extra points for admissions, and some schools require you to have this certification. So people will get into it, and then they get trapped into it.
That's easy to do in life.
And they can't get into their other professions or whatever. So I'd like to try to find out, what is it that you really want to do? Why do you want the certification? What is it that is drawing you here? Is this a temporary thing or whatever? If you're trapped in the profession and it's not what you really want to do, well, then we need to find something that you want to do, because you're never going to be happy doing something you don't want to do. You really need to do something that you want to do. Also, there's a big difference when you were in and now.
There's a huge difference.
Back in the day, whenever you got out, there was a handful of things you could do. You could either work on the ambulance, you could work on the fire truck, or you could work in an ER.
Sometimes, depending on the ER.
Depending on the ER, sometimes.
Right.
Now,
or if you were lucky, you could swing a doctor's office as not a PA, but as an office assistant kind of thing. But you wouldn't be using your full skills. Right.
Now, there is a plethora of subspecialties out there. For example, we have the EMS, which we're on the ambulance. We have the fire department.
Right.
We have now we have like ER techs are being used a lot more extensively now.
You're welcome, Newton County.
Yep.
Me and Don Bartow were the first two there.
Sure were. Well, first time they got hired, they used to use us all the time.
They used to say come over and
work
hang
overtime.
Yeah.
So,
that's true.
So you've got those three core, and now you've got like hyperbarics techs.
Okay.
You've got SWAT medics. You've got.
And that was something you started working on here in Newton County. Yeah.
And now it's like a big thing. You have event medicine, like people who are working these big events.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Riding bicycles, four wheelers, and
I always assumed
football games.
Originally, I assumed it was the local EMS that tasked people out, but now I think there's actual event companies that just have medics, right?
Yeah. Like they'll cover like concerts, parades.
I'm down with concerts
and stuff like that. movie set medics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You've got that. You've got industrial medics, people who work in an industry. You've got, of course, your military medics, military medicines. You've got that going on. You've got your doctor's offices, like you said. Orthopedic clinics are using medics a lot. Some anesthesiology groups are using them as anesthesiology assistants or whatever.
Did these changes come because it was easy to tack on a little extra education to the paramedics?
I think so.
It seemed like at one point, like I'd want to go. I was looking for a way out when I was at Newton, and I got become friends with many doctors, and we have different access to the hospital, right? As you bring patients in, this patient needs to go here, and I was in a cath lab talking
That's
to
another one.
the
Cath lab.
Yeah, the cath lab is really cool, actually. For me, I mean, that hits all my high notes of the coolness factor. And the doctor's in there, and I'm talking to a nurse or somebody about the ability to work in the cath lab. What did it take? Well, basically, they had the same skills I already had.
Right.
And so the doctor came out, and I can't remember who it was, but he was very friendly, much like Dr. Johnson used to be. He was one of my fun guys at Newton. Mm-hmm. And I talked to him, he said, give me all this information. He says, well, you have to be this certification. Well, you have the same skills and the same knowledge. Without this whole different certification, you can't work here. Is that somewhat, in general, not specifically the cath lab, is that somewhat seemingly changed? Where instead of having to get a whole different year-long or 2-year-long degree, you can now go, oh, you've got 90% of what you need. Here's the 10%, and now you can work with this.
A lot of places are doing stuff like that.
That's how it should be.
You've already got a license to operate, so they're taking advantage of that as well. Brent has asked, what about a B while in school for the A? And unfortunately for the B, there's not a whole lot.
Sounds like he's cussing like a kid. Yeah. What about the B when you're school for the A? EMCT versus advanced, right?
Yeah. Well, while he's in school for A, about the best that I think you could get as a B is working on an ambulance or on a fire truck in the fire department. There's not a lot that a basic can do in the emergency room setting. In the emergency room setting, I mean, they're going to want you to start IVs.
I thought I was ugly for a second. He can go fetch the stretcher out of the room for the patient, just like he would on my truck.
So you can do. I think the best avenue for there is going to be like on the ambulance or on a fire truck. Or event EMS. You can find some places that are, some services that do the events. They work events too, and the movie sets too. So there are some more options when you really think about it.
Now, I would love to know how to get in the movie. I've done extra work, and I've seen some medics. Never really took the time to talk to them because I've been busy. But I'm curious, how do you get into that? Because for the most part, it seems like you just need the basic skills. And the last set I was on actually had a lady who had some kind of spell. I don't know if it's fainting or seizure. I wasn't there. I was just there for the aftermath when they burned actually the same room I was in and was talking to her. And it was just basic blood pressure, basic history of the patient, how'd you feel, these kind of things. And I could see, basics could easily do that, and it's fun. I think it's fun. I think being on the set, I'm there for 8 to 10 hours sometimes. It's a long day, but it's a lot of fun to go on set and see how that works. But that's me.
So there is some things in there you just really got to really investigate and look. I know the movie set folks, you kind of got to, there's some agencies out there, and you just kind of got to look around and keep your eyes open for it. There's a union out there too that, you may have to join the union and be part of that.
Yeah, a lot of Hollywood stuff is that way.
Yep.
All right, so there's lots of opportunities, and that's what I would, and maybe things have changed to where this is there. We used to have national, everybody has some kind of critical counseling, right? Either somebody in-house or typically it's a state network of, hey, let me see who's in the area. Oh, this person's a critical counselor. Mm-hmm. I know David Briscoe for a while I don't know if he's a critical counselor, but he was a guy you talked to there. And if it got beyond a certain point, he would say, hey, and at that one point with me was, I'm not sleeping at night. I'm not dealing with this very well. And he says, okay, let's call a critical counselor. And I drove over to Henry County or Butts County, just right across the border, and talk to somebody who was certified. But I think there should be somebody on staff that looks for those signs. Not necessarily the critical counselor, because for me, in my mind, with the textbook knowledge that I have, critical counselor is directly linked to critical incident. Something happened that we're not prepared to handle because it is such an overwhelming thing. The death of a coworker on a scene type of deal. That's a big one-time thing. I'm talking about an everyday, how you doing? Let's kind of, almost like police officers have to see a psychologist, an in-house person to clear them after a shooting, good or bad, doesn't matter. We should have somebody, not necessarily clear you for work, but if I had somebody did what you said you would do, sit down, let's talk about what you want out of life. That would have helped me a lot, because I can't get past the fact that I felt alone a lot. And now, was it my fault? Of course it was, because I wasn't going, Tom, man, can we talk for a minute? I wasn't going to Luna, who was our director at the time. Right. I wasn't going to anybody. It was all here. And the longer you stay in your head, the worse it gets. And so I made choices out of that. And that ultimately got me back to full circle where we're sitting here today. And we'll talk about that more in a minute. But what do you think about instituting, or the need to institute somebody like that in the paramedic profession?
I think one of the shortcomings in our profession, and it's starting to get a little better because we're getting a little better educated, is that our leaders aren't really trained to be leaders. Our leaders kind of come up, and you're
we talked about that, right? You're here long enough, you become the leader.
You're a good paramedic, so you must be a good supervisor. And that becomes very stressful for them too. And I know, because I was there. I mean, I was, a supervisor, and I got frustrated. I loved my job, and then I started hating my job because I hated having to come in and deal with coworkers.
Yeah.
I just want to be on the truck, go run calls. But I had no training. I was just, one day I was wearing a blue shirt, next day I was wearing a white shirt. Nobody showed you how to do it, So I think those are things that all supervisors should have to go through some classes to be able to recognize that, because that supervisor is the pulse. They're the ones that should be noticing, hey, my employees here are in distress. The supervisor's responsibility should be to make sure that the employees are okay. Their job to look after them, take care of them, make sure they have the tools they need and the environment that they need to thrive.
Yeah.
That should be that. And so how do we get there?
It should be beyond. It really should be beyond what you're doing here today on the shift, or even tomorrow. It should be out in life as well. Right. What's going on at the house? How's the life treating you?
Not,
Man, if I were to ever get back into the field, I never want to be on the truck again. I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
That goes, hey, Tom, tell me what's going on with your life. Well, I'm working 3 jobs. Well, I'm going to try to bring you to the importance of, if you're married, that was a choice you made, and why'd you make, that counseling, that's maybe at some point you need to be certified for, but that's where I guess, because I didn't get it, that's where I like to be, is
I don't think you have to call it counseling. I'd call it more coaching.
Coaching, yeah.
Just being a good steward, having some responsibility. Because as a leader, leaders should be judged on the success of their subordinates, not on their success.
Right.
And a lot of times it's the other way around. People look at it, they try to build their own accolades to say, look what I did, look what I did, look what I did, look what I did, while everybody below them is like in the dust.
Or
that's
right,
not a good leader.
Or I know you've been here in this situation as the worker, not as a leader. Or you go, hey, my budget looks great, because that's all the bosses care about is that budget. How's your budget look? And we're sitting here going, we hate each other and we hate life, and why are we here? And who gives a crap about, if I come to you with a problem and all you talk about is the budget. And that's sometimes, unfortunately, the way things roll. And I asked things specifically of Newton, and Luna wasn't like that, but I know problems would arise. One specific problem came where there's money went missing. Newton was expanding. I think it was a Knox Surgical Center at the time. They were building it. They were expanding it something. And something came up short. Like a contractor. Money was not where it was supposed to be.
Right.
And all of a sudden, everybody got tightened down on. All of a sudden, everybody's being inspected. All of a sudden, I forget the name of the guy, but whoever ran the hospital walked into EMS one day, found somebody on the couch watching TV, and then it was, you guys should be working. And you weren't on shift. It was somebody else, but you were my captain, so you were tasked with telling us, okay, this is how it's got to be. You got to go do territories. And immediately, I don't know if everybody else did, but I remember me going, F you. This guy goes to sleep at 10 o'clock at night and sleeps till 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. When I'm working, I should be able to lay on this couch, even though it wasn't me that was caught. And it became a problem with all of us. And there were rumblings. And ultimately, either we accepted it or we moved on. And,
well, the thing back then, especially back then, what frustrated me about that type of environment was that we were working 24-hour shifts and we were making $11, $12 an hour.
If that, yeah.
If that. And they should have left us alone.
Exactly.
You know, I understand, like, you know, we had things that we had to do every day. So if you remember, like how I ran my shift was we came in the mornings, we checked our truck off, then we ate breakfast. I had a meeting while we were eating breakfast to say what was going on, this was going on. If it was inventory day, then we were done with inventory by noon.
Yeah.
And then I left everybody alone after that.
Typically, until your boss told you differently.
Yes. But, you know, crap rolls downhill. I got to do what I'm told to.
Yeah.
And like drug day, we get our drug orders in, you know, house day, we all did it.
And it
we
made for a better day.
And we
you had more energy when you first get there, and then you had the whole thing of looking forward to
leave
be
people
done.
alone.
Yeah.
You know, we were run as long as you ran your calls.
Yes.
You know, and got your stuff done. My only expectations out of people is just get our duties done, run your calls, and if somebody has a bad call, then if I'm at headquarters, meet them over at the ER, help them get in service, you know, help each other out, you know. Like if you came in with a cardiac arrest, you know, that's a lot of stuff to restock, clean up, or whatever. Go help, you know.
Yeah.
That was my only expectations. But see, these other folks, they don't understand. They just say, oh, you know, you got like nurses and administrators who are making
it's
$20
the fast food
an hour.
mentality of it. If there's time to lean, there's time to clean.
Yeah.
I hate that so much.
They think, you know, they're making $20 an hour. But see, what they did to us is they factored in our salary because we made all this overtime.
Right.
So we're working twice as many hours, if not 3 times as many hours, to make the same amount that other people are making, working a third of the hours. So, you know, that's why I did it that way. But that's the difference between a leader and a manager. Mm-hmm. And if you remember during that time when that happened, that only went on for a couple weeks. After a couple weeks, it was, you know,
right.
Then once it blew over, we
right.
smoothed it out and moved on. And that's, like I said, you know, that's where you need people who are strong leaders to be able to say, hold up, you know, this is the policy. You know, we're okay to do this. And that's, you know, that's why here, you know, I'm laid back here. You know, I'm not real rough on people. You know, I have expectations. As long as you meet that, I'm fine, you know. I don't.
To me, that's what a leader should be. That's what a paramedic should be. That's what an EMT should be. Is you go in and make sure you understand the expectations, and they should be reasonable expectations. You agree. That's part of the deal you make when you get hired. You agree to the expectations. And then after that, you should be held responsible based on the expectations. Yeah. Are you a grown man? Are you a grown woman? Well, then act like it.
I heard this thing the other day about a friend of mine who knew someone who worked in a doctor's office. And you know how everything's electronic now, so they're working off a computer for the medical records. So like the doctor enters in like, oh, I want this patient to get a flu shot, right? So then they went over and they have the computer up and they see the order. So they look, okay, they get this. So then they have to go to another room, pull the medication. Then they come back and they check and make sure, verify the medication. And then they go and they give it to the patient. And then they come back and then they have to enter in. They gave the medication to the patient and where they gave it, what time, and all that stuff.
And while that sounds tedious, it sounds also like a safety procedure as well.
Right. But what happened is that per HIPAA, every time you leave that computer, you're supposed to log out.
Oh.
So in every day though, because they're all there every day, nobody ever logs out because there's no supervisor there saying you log out. Nobody's ever getting in trouble. This one time, she's got her computer open. Somebody stole the identity of said patient. Went and opened up some credit cards. It all got traced back to right there, and she got fired.
Wow. Well, unfortunately,
But her thing was like, well, everybody else is doing it, and I'm like,
But
remember we were
nobody else-
talking last
yeah.
week about how complacent. I said complacency, because that's what happens. They got complacent. Trust everybody because everybody else does it, and it always works okay until you're the one that something bad happens to, and you get made the example.
Yeah.
The example gets
that's-
made.
Man, I remember HIPAA came around during my time. You know, it was new when I was a medic. And
Yeah.
Okay, the original videos they did with the examples
Oh
are
my God.
dumb,
Yeah.
right? It's like, I'm in the elevator. I'm making sure I'm saying Tom Camplain has this disease. It's like nobody talks that way
No.
ever, you know. And nobody goes to dinner to tell you about the patients they ran today and gives their full medical history with socials. Oh my God! But I got the point that they were driving across was things had happened and bad juju can happen until society catches up and changes. And I believe it has now. I mean, at the time, age was the big thing. Oh man, if you had age, you'd be fired. Well, now. Today, there's a whole lot different standards,
Right.
and quite honestly, they can't ask. And if they do find out, most times the law says they can't fire you
All right.
because it's a stigma thing instead of a safety issue.
Well, back then we didn't know a lot about it. Now
True.
we do.
Yeah, we know more about all the diseases. So, but going to the person, it wasn't your friend's a friend, whatever. But the point is, while everybody does it, you're responsible for your safety. You, in all senses of the word. And while I totally get not logging out of the computer, I also get you were the one that got the violation, the breach.
And
Well,
it's a
everybody does
breach.
it. Yeah, but Tom didn't get the breach. I didn't get the breach. You got the breach, unfortunately.
It's like speeding, right?
Yeah, everybody
Everybody
speeds. That one person
But then
gets
whenever
caught.
you get hit, or you hit somebody, or you lose control and crash, or you get caught by the police.
You know, for every drunk driving accident, this is not a true statistic. I'm making up what I think the numbers are. But for every drunk driving accident, there's got to be 200 that don't happen.
Yeah.
I drive
People
drunk
don't get
home
caught.
every day. What's the problem of it? Well, you personally may never hit an accident or kill somebody, but it does happen, and it's the law. It is a problem. But coming back to full circle back to the story, I was telling how I got here and how you hired me to come do this. When I thought you just wanted education, I was like, okay, I could do that. And instantly, after our first 2 or 3 shows, you were like, you should teach. You should get your numbers back. And I went, no, slow your roll, man. But we've taught, and I personally am the kind of guy who never just shuts out the universe, never shuts out the path to opportunities. So, okay, first let me get past my personal back history of why I wouldn't want to do it. And I got past that. Then we talked and said, okay, well, right now I'm working all this time, and to take time away to do the classes, to actually teach, that's a hindrance. And neither one of us said no. You just said, well, I have no offer of guaranteed hours, but everything else is still open. So, okay, well, I'm open to the idea too. And then the path came down to stuff went away, doors opened up. And I said, you know what? I'm okay to talk to you. Now, an interesting thing, my wife, so a little backstory, you'll appreciate this. My wife, who I still call my first wife, just to irritate her sometimes. When I had left the field and I was working in an office, she was like, keep your numbers as a safety net. Well, I did a whole show on one of my podcasts recently about safety nets or an anchor. I don't believe in safety nets. I believe in always moving forward. And to me, that was the anchor that was dragging me down. Well, ultimately, I came to the decision and said, I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to get in the truck. I'm tired of spending money on it. I'm just being honest with you. And she begrudgingly said, okay, do what you have to do to make yourself happy. And I stopped spending money on research, let the numbers lapse. And years later, we went through a bankruptcy where, it popped in my mind, if I had numbers, I could get on a truck. But I would have been miserable. And to my mind, $10 an hour was still the number, because that's what I had left was $10 an hour. This is about 3 years ago. And I hadn't been in the field. I mean, that was my other big concern was, yes, I have numbers. Yes, it gives me a job, but I literally have no rusty skills. I have rusty skills.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do I believe I could tube a dummy? I could tube a dummy right now. Do I believe I could tube a human? I'd rather somebody who did it yesterday to come in and do it today than me have to do it because I'm rusty. So all that played in. We went through our second bankruptcy and lost the house, and she never brought it up. But when I came home last week and said to her, hey, I talked to Tom. I think I'm going to go back. I'm not thinking. I'm pretty much going to go back and do this because now, in the flow of going forward, this thing has opened up. I believe what you're saying. I think I will enjoy teaching people. Mm-hmm. And you took away a lot of the non-truths that I had about it, the myths that I believed about recertification. So she was mad for a minute. And I'm like, I thought you'd be happy about this. You know, I still have the numbers that you want, that whole thing, and I'm moving forward. We're happy. She goes, but I told you to keep it.
You knew that was coming.
Yeah, I did. I told her, it's like, I couldn't bring myself to say you were right. Well, I said, because I don't believe she was 100% right. I believe she's partially right. I believe the path we took was the right one. I said, well, right or wrong doesn't matter. This is how we can move forward. And she's, well, it's going to cost you more than it would to keep it. And I'm like, there, you're wrong. It's been 10 years since I let my numbers go because I know about my children. So let's just say 8 years. So 8 years, so out of 8, that's 4 times of recertification, more or less. Mm-hmm. Paying somebody for the hours, right? And at the time I had a course I was doing for $75. You said now when you start offering it might be $40, but let's just say 75 plus the ACLS that I had to have, plus the recertificate, whatever. You're talking a good, let's just say $300 roughly on training and everything to get recertified times 4. It's not going to cost me that to get my numbers back. You know, you're talking $1,200. I'm like, no, baby, no. Let me handle the math. Tom's going to hook me up and help me out as best as he can. And that's the thing about coming to this school. I'm going to be as ginger as I can so I don't step on anything you don't want out there. But I can tell you in my experience going to school, you pay up front, period. 100% of the money up front. I was lucky I got Hope Scholarship both times, so I had to pay very little, but it was up front. If I stopped going, the school got all that money. It didn't matter. You offer payment plans sometimes here. Mm-hmm. Now, the contract, let me back up because, again, I don't want to speak out of turn. I want to speak correctly to what I want you to know as a student. It's your responsibility. You decide to go to school, any school. You pay for a certain amount of things up front. I went to school back when I left you at EMS. So this is my son. My wife was pregnant with my oldest, who's about to be 12. So I went to school almost 11 years ago. I'm still paying on loans for that school. I never did anything with that education. I've got a piece of paper that is less valuable than the toilet paper in my house right now. Mm-hmm. And it's never opened a door for me. It's never done anything. And I'm still paying on that debt.
Yep.
That's a responsibility you take on when you come to school. That's a responsibility I'm taking on. And I want some more information from you. But I looked up, National Registry tells you what the test is for paramedics, $120. Mm-hmm. Boom, got that put aside. I'm about to do my taxes, have some money put aside. I'm trying to figure out what the instructor test, that's more information I want from you. Mm-hmm. But when you tackle this kind of project, when you judge, when you have to balance your life, right?
Right.
That's what you were talking about. What do you want out of life? I'm not doing this because you taught me into it. I'm doing it because I've always looked at what felt right, what the opportunity was. You're not asking me to be a full-time teacher. You're not asking me to open up a second school and take on debt and do all this. What you're saying is you appreciate what I do here and you think I'd fit and you're helping me with opportunities to do that. And I looked at it and went, all right. And then I looked at the class, I could do that class. Like, no, dude, there's 6 classes. So like I hit the continue or read more. Like, well, I can do all those, but wow, that's going to be a lot more than I thought. But I'm already picturing myself taking notes and remembering, but learning new things and it's going to be interesting. Who teaches the recert, by the way?
Well, me, James, Steve.
It's going to be interesting. And, my wife's already asking, well, what about, do you have a fridge? Because we can pack you a lunch and your coffee. And I was like, well, I will definitely bring my coffee. And I know you have the Keurig behind me.
And I have freaking coffee at home for the Keurig, and I keep forgetting to bring it.
Oh, my favorite thing is I have a mesh filter. Now I paid $20 for, I don't know how many years ago, a long time ago. And I just rinse it out and I put in Starbucks coffee every morning.
Yeah, I need to get that for them here because you know the 2.0 won't. You can't use that.
You can't do the mesh filter anymore.
No, on the 2.0.
They offer a separate filter, or is it just K-Cups?
The K-Cups, they got like a little chip in the K-Cups. And if the chips are out of date, it won't do it either.
Well, I don't want a 2.0 then. I'm going to stick with what I have.
Stick with the old one.
Yeah, because I don't like that at all.
But yeah, I think too, also, people go through seasons in life.
Yeah, I can get with that.
And you went through a season where you needed a change. And now another season's coming back around. And just like the 4 seasons we have, you know, the fall is the fall. Spring is spring. Things look familiar, but they're not ever the same.
Yeah, it's always moving forward.
You're kind of in familiar territory, but it's not the same. It's not riding on the ambulance.
I'm different. It's the number one thing.
And as we go through seasons in life, that's one thing too. Sometimes we get stuck in a season and we get stuck on the ambulance when we should get off the ambulance and do other things. It's time for other people to ride on the ambulance now. It's time for us to help people get there. Eventually, it's going to be time for us to do something else besides this.
Yeah.
So we have to, like you said, always looking to move forward. When you start really getting unhappy and stuff is when you're stuck in a season and you need to get out of it. So you got out of it. Now
I burned every bridge I could find, except people.
Now we've got another season.
Yeah.
That's opening up, you know, and you've acquired skills. I mean, like the podcast and stuff you've been doing in the past, that has got prepared you for teaching, for public speaking, teaching, and this medium that we're using here now, we're teaching. So we're moving forward with that, and you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, and
it's a lot of fun.
So as you sign up for classes, the likelihood of getting in and teaching with the EMT class is slim because of my timetable for having to get the instructor and stuff, all that. But the class I do get in, you be prepared because the theme of every class is going to be personal responsibility, man.
Yeah.
I have no investment. I have a personal, I want to invest in people. That's why I do the show. I mean, as listeners, as viewers, I connect with people. And I have an investment in you as a person to get what you want out of life. I want to hand you the tools. That's where that investment stops. If you use the tools properly, you're going to get what you want. If you don't come crying to me about your grades. They're your grades, man. I gave you everything you needed to get there.
Exactly. However, things...
You can go to Dean Tom's office and cry all day long. He'll give you a tissue and kick you out.
I don't do well with people who don't make the grade because they didn't do the work. Now, it's one thing if you're doing the work and you need help. Well, that's what we're here for.
Exactly.
We are one of those tools. You need...
Tom admitted he's a tool.
Yep. You need us to go over that exam with you so that you understand it. What you messed up on, that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
But if you don't call us, you come late to class and you leave early. You miss your exams because you're busy doing other things. We can't help you with that. We can't spoon feed. Yeah. We can't shovel the information in you. I wish it was that easy because my life would have been a lot easier if I could have just hit a hatch and just throw it in there, But it doesn't work that way.
So, all right, I think that's going to be it for the end of the day here. And we definitely went, everything is about what we're doing now. That's why it's Ask a Paramedic. Anything, it's the underground. It's the things that people don't talk about. So we talk about the path. I ask the questions. Tom asks the questions. We discuss things. And we take questions from you every week. So check us out every week. First off, check us out here at Georgia Institute of EMS on Facebook. We do this every Thursday. It'll let you know if we're live if you subscribe to the page. Because we do shoot for 2:30, but sometimes tech things happen. And I don't know, we're using the same camera, but my camera looks so much better, man. I look good on camera.
No, I look.
I think this what the light's hitting you more directly. It's
we need to change size.
You're not that pale in real life. Maybe we'll change size next week.
Yeah, maybe I need makeup.
So also, you can call here at 678-561-2368, or that's AEMT, to find out more about classes. You got a class orientation starting up this Monday. That's the advanced EMT starts
Advanced
this Monday.
EMT, and then the next Monday is the basic. So
Right.
you got to be a basic before you're an advanced. So come on.
There you go. It's never too late, and I hope to what I hope to bring to the table with these shows and eventually with teaching is that we're here to help you with what you want to get out of life, as opposed to teaching you just medicine. Because there's a lot more to the EMS field than just medicine.
Yep.
That's just the tip of the iceberg. Of course, GeorgiaEMT.com is where you can find out more information. And if you want to hear more from me, it's CharlesMcFall.com. You can find out more. So I guess we're just going to, let me move my tablet out of the way. So I guess we're going to start. You got anything anything else to say, sir?
No, that's it. Just come on. Come on to school. We'll see you soon.
Well, I look forward to next week finding out how orientation went and talking about some more stuff.
All right. See ya.